Welcome to another video. This is Todd of Figure Fiend. This time I'm going back into development after doing a bunch of videos about painting. So this I wanted to showcase or focus on the Swamp Thing stuff that I did that I'd been posting on Instagram. So to start off, I was a huge fan of Swamp Thing growing up. Like the overall style, the covers, the tone, the lighting, the character design and the writing work that went into it. Just really amazing work. And I always wanted Swamp Thing figures, toys of some kind. So once Kenner did something in the 90s, I was so excited. I loved these. And I loved the dime store nature of the attachments that went on top. I went to show these photos from We Had This, which is a great site, by the way. These photographs were amazing and just really playful and really fun, and they definitely showcase the style of the Kenner Swamp Thing figures from the late 80s, early 90s, I believe. So I absolutely love this sculpt, and I always wanted to do something along those lines. And since I'd been doing a lot of like 8-inch Mego style stuff and revisiting other toy lines, I decided let's start with Arcane. So I started working on the basic structure of the mask predominantly, and then doing some sketching for what I thought the mask would look like for Skin Man and for Arcane, and then going and doing some redesigns based on my early sketches until I could land where I wanted with that sort of thing. But a lot of the time initially went into making sure it was the right size, making sure it fit on the figure properly, went over the head. And then even my early attempts at sculpting Arcane's head, like I was happy with it. It was too small. The cane was too small. And then I later made some adjustments to the sculpt and scale. And then this shows my initial design for his mask, which I wanted to be arachnid. I wanted it to be humanoid. This one came out a little thick, I thought, in terms of the limbs and the legs. That's once I got the scale situated on those and thin things a bit. But in the end, I wasn't happy with his overall design. I thought it was too humanoid, so I went and redesigned something completely different, which is what you see laying down there. So once I had Arcane done, Skin Man went much smoother, just because a lot of the problem solving I had to do with Arcane worked into Skin Man. And I already figured out wing system and chest systems anyway, and I had the dimensions of the inner cavity. And once that was done, it was sort of like I run my print tests, and then I go into the painting phase of like getting these as close as possible, altering clothing or sewing pieces that will mimic that style, as you can see here, and making sure the wings could attach to the head just like in the original Skin Man design, so that it popped off the whole thing. I thought that was very important in that regard. And when it came to photographing them, I love to like find photos, real photos of real backgrounds, and then print that stuff out and then set up the figures in an actual physical space with like moss and lichen and some little model trees that I sculpted and printed out. And that just made the photographing process way more enjoyable for me, because they're actually in a physical space in that regard, and nothing really comes close to capturing that feel like it does in a physical space. And then getting all the sort of like font work from the package and putting that on the photographs is a lot of fun. So one of my friends from work asked me actually about some of the box construction. So I wanted to spend some time going over that. My friend Souls, who's an amazing artist, an amazing sculptor. So he asked me about the box construction because I hadn't shown any of that in my videos. So I thought that was a really good idea. So the first thing I do is I do all the measurements for the figures. Height, width, depth, and then I average them and then pad them in case the same box has to basically service many figures. So once you have that step done and you know all your dimensions, you can then start looking at imagery to work from. And in this regard, I just grabbed images off the internet to do this first box mock-up. The stuff is really low res. The stuff you're going to find on the internet is generally way too low res to print from. These are big pieces. They need to be 300 DPI. They need to be very clear, but it does give you a sense of getting the basic structure together, and then what you want on each panel, where you want placement, what you want to do in terms of color, and then basically aligning all those elements. So once I have that done, I then either rephotograph an original piece or I re-ink and redraw. In this case, it was a little bit of both. Once I've done that step, I can then take the elements that I've redrawn and rephotographed and then place them properly. And this helps me because I then have a high-res piece, and you can see that just basically snapping it together and prepping it for print. And since I had already taken those photos, I used those for the back, and I rephotographed him again, both figures, to have them position and lay flat in the front. So it would simulate what it would look like boxed. It's going to be interesting boxed because it's tall. It's got to fit a head above it, which is really interesting, and have some kind of like tie system or shelf system. So I'm still figuring that out. So anyway, these were awesome to work on. They were like some of my most favorite sculpts and figures from Kenner at that time. So I appreciate you guys watching, and definitely let me know if you have any questions or comments, or just you want to share your own Swamp Thing experiences, because these were so cool to do. All right, thanks again for watching and for all of you that support. I appreciate it.